Hello, I'm Odin, and today I'm gonna start on a costume build that's for me. And I don't just mean a costume that's gonna fit me, but this is a project I've wanted to do for a couple of years now. The head of the 1974 Mechagodzilla. Today, I'm making a kaiju head, but I want to be able to wear it on my head. So I'll start this build by cutting out my basic underhelmet that I first created from my Red Guardian helmet. This time, I printed the pattern at 98% size. It often feels like it might be a little loose, so I want this time to be a snug fit. And I'm making it with what the foam because I want it to be sturdier to support the weight of the Mechagodzilla head. It's too small. Oink. So that's pretty good. So apparently I just need to make a little dart that goes in there, and then that'll actually fit really well. So how wide is that? The mashed paper pattern gave me a triangle that I can cut out and glue in, and then trim it to fit. So it's time to actually make the kaiju. I've got reference photos. I took a lot of screen caps from the movie itself. I have a few behind the scenes photos, which are really kind of fun. But what I really need is a three-dimensional reference. And I actually have a couple of toys. This one is probably the best one that I've got, and it was actually a gift from a friend. Thank you, Jerry. What I need to do is figure out how to increase the size of the toy to be a size of a costume that'll fit me. What I ended up doing was taking a picture of me that was in a similar pose, and then I took a good close-up picture of the toy, superimposed each of them on top of each other in Photoshop, and then enlarged the image until it was the same size as I actually am, which gave me a 100% scale size for the head of the toy. So this is it. This is what I'm trying to make here today. My face will actually look out this grill here, so my head stops right around here. All this becomes an excessive hat that'll fit really well in frame, I'm sure. What was really kind of fun, once I figured out what 100% size was, is if I measure the back of the crest of the head on the drawing or photo, and then measure the back of the crest of the head on the toy, the relative sizes are very interesting. This was 11 inches. This was almost exactly 22 millimeter, which means I can take any measurement off the toy, divide it by 2, and that's how many inches I need to make it on the costume, right? So millimeters divided by 2 equals inches in my costume. That is such an easy formula. I can't believe it was that simple. The neck piece is just what I want to do second. I want to get the hat made. So let's do the triangle. So I'm gonna do the ears first. I need to start somewhere. I don't even know where to start, right? I know I've got my head. I know I want to put the head on top of my head. I know I want to make the jaw move. I know I want to make the eyes line up. I don't even know where to start. I double check my measurements and start working on the ears. It's basically a big triangle piece. I patterned my prototype with some cardstock and cut a matching pair from 10mm HD foam using my bandsaw. I create the top of the head triangle, minus the 10mm sides, and start gluing my foam parts together with contact cement. All right, so this needs to be like this, but it needs to do that. Yep, that's right. Okay. I spent a couple of days getting all the parts measured and cut out for the head and fitting together the pieces, triple checking the sizes, because I can measure the toy, but it has limitations because of its size. So I'm constantly checking my reference photos from the movie to be sure the shape looks right as well. And in the end, it'll still be my interpretation of Mechagodzilla, but I want to be happy with it, and I want to make it as close as I can get it. So I spent all morning, it's lunchtime. I spent all morning getting the top of the head ready, and honestly, I'm pretty happy with it. Could it be better? Things can always be better. But I'm pretty happy with that. And it's nice that this one sculpted piece is all that's really needed to transform the Tex Avery wolf into Mechagodzilla. That really helped a lot. I've got details to put on, but major pieces, I need to do the mandible and the spikes, and that's it. Then I've got details and rivets. I got the eyes and the ear pieces. All right. There is a series of plates on the snout, and I use a corner of a grinding stone to carve the lines in. And this is one of those don't mess it up operations. If I cut in the wrong place, it's going to be a lot of work to fix it and cover it up. I get the lines as I want them, no repairs needed. The last plates on the snout need to bolt to the ear panels. I cut some 2mm foam and carefully glue it in place to be that plate. I'm so glad I got the top of the head done. This makes me feel so much better. It actually looks kind of right now. He's still missing his eyes, but yeah. I think I'm going to do the spines next, then I'll do the mandible. So the spines should be easy. The spines will be cut from layers of foam that are stacked together. I get my sizes. Looking at the base. It's about 4 inches tall. And we stick out 2 inches. That's it. All right, 2 inches. Most of the head and neck spines are the same size, so I cut multiple pieces. But one set needs to be a little larger. Then add a layer of white 8mm foam over the 2 layers of 10mm foam. And I have my bandsaw table set to 45 degrees to cut the edges off of each spike. And I'm following the center of the seam. I cut a bevel into each of the outside edges. And they need to taper as they go, so on each side I also cut an angle into the white 8mm layer. Now this is just the beginning. I have a lot of these to make, so I wanted to decide on a method for making these now, one that I could keep doing in the future. 3, 2, 3, there, like that, like that, like that. That's one up there like that. Okay, so these are the only ones I need right now. I got the 2 that are gonna go on the head, and I got 3 that are gonna go on the back and the neck. I've got 2 little ones I gotta make, so I'll get those done, and then I can start working on the jaw. I get my spines glued on, even the smaller set. That top spine needed some sanding so it fit the curve of the neck. I can reuse the floor mat foam test piece that I had for the top jaw, and I can get the size that I want for the lower jaw. Add in another set of gums, and figure out the profile for the shape of the lower jaw. I want to cut a folding piece to make the lower jaw because that way I'll have less seams to worry about. So I measure out where the points of the jaw needs to go, and then I'll line up the 2 points to make a folding cut with my router attachment on an old Dremel. The high-speed cutter bit is not cutting all the way through the foam, it's just scoring the top of it. There's a weird fuzzy piece that I need to remove from inside of each cut, but what I end up with is a very nice folded piece of foam without external seams. I can use super glue to keep the seams shut, and an accelerant will speed up the dry time. I made this shape longer than I needed, so I can move it around and then cut it to fit. The black foam is only 4mm thick. I add some strips of 6mm foam to each side, so I have a little more area to glue the curved part to the jawline. I have some pencil guidelines to follow as well. I cut the front on an angle and then plug the hole with some 6mm foam. I'll need to make a cut into the neck ring so the jaw can fit, but before I make that cut, I should get the teeth ready. I was thinking that I could cut sections off the largest half-round dowel that they have at Michael's, but the dowels are not going to work. The radius is too small. I can't use these. The teeth are too small. Oh, well, that's kind of a bummer. I make a pattern from cardstock and cut out way more teeth than I needed. I have extras if I need them later. These are all cut from 8mm thick foam. There are 4 teeth across the front of the bottom jaw and 3 across the top. I set the side teeth near the inside edge of the gums, and each one is about a tooth apart. And the top jaw is the same, but the teeth are set on the outside edge of the gums. That way when the jaw closes, the teeth miss each other. Now I can check that my cutout on the neck is right, and cut it out. I also trim the jaw for the best fit. I can really get a look at where I need to place the hinge for the jaw. It ends up being lower than I thought. I still want it to be simple, so I drill holes and skewer a carbon fiber rod through all the parts. And I also want some springs to keep the jaw shut. Now these are springs, but specifically, they're the top of DIY Christmas ornaments for the craft store. I cut some strips of strong back adhesive foam to hold the springs in place on an aluminum tube. It's always a little bit weird to have an idea on how something should work, right? Or an idea on how you kind of want something to work out, which is the same thing. But then for it to actually not only go together, but almost go together easier than you ever expected it to. Not gonna lie, I thought the whole jaw was gonna give me a lot more problems than it did. Not that the problem's exactly over yet, but I thought I was gonna be a bit more involved, a bit more heartache than what I've got going on right now. So that's kind of a huge plus. I wrapped some paper tape around the foam as well, just to keep it all in place. I drill a hole through a 10mm foam dowel, which easily fits inside the aluminum tube, and I got my spring mechanism ready. I add 2 extra layers of wet the foam to the back of the jaw and on the inside of the head, because this is where the springs will rest. The black foam is much stronger than the gray foam, and it's going to last longer with the springs pushing on it. Fit everything back together. This takes very, very little to make it work. That's kind of cool. Okay, I need to fix under the chin. I add a small strip around the hole in the neckline. Where am I next? I need to add rockets on the tongue and more neck rings. Really, is that it? Wait a minute, am I getting that close to done? Well, yes and no. Yes, but no. I am getting close to being done. But what I need to do, I need nostrils, ears, eyes, missile tongue, and neck ring. Okay. I sharpened a pair of 10mm foam dowels for the rocket tongue and contact cement them in place. And I'll add a little more to the 10mm thick neck ring. I cut strips of 4mm wet the foam for the next layers of the neck ring, but before I glue the strips on, I make a round plug for the neck. It will keep the neck round. I doubt I would make it round just by doing it by hand. Then I glue on the first new neck ring. I have a pencil mark to follow to keep the ring level. There's also a cutout for the lower jaw on this ring. The second new ring fits just around the neck. I made this one a little wider, it's 3 inches, just to be sure that I had enough to fit inside the neck piece when I make it. The nostrils are easy. They're short pieces of thin-walled half-inch PVC pipe. They're superglued in place into the nose. Keeping them aligned to each other is the hardest part. Nostrils like this might bring a new definition to the idea of snot rockets. He never does that in the movie, so I have no idea if he's got snot rockets like that or not, but you know, it's possible. The ears are made from a red lens cover. I don't know exactly which model was used originally, but I found a good set of running lights. I just need to cut the actual light part off because the ears don't light up and they are much thinner on the head than the lights are now on the table. I'm amazed that cutting the lights worked this well. I set the lens to be equal to the bottom line of that side mouth panel, and then I'll mark its placement. Then I need to mark the 2 panel lines that go on each ear. Then I've got a similar bit of truck light that I'm going to use for the eyes, only these are actually yellow instead of amber, which I was really pleased with. And they're LED, so they're just 12-volt LED. Means I can probably make the eyes light up just using a 12-volt power drill battery, right? Which I'm pretty excited about. It came with wires, so the whole thing should go together nicely. His eyes are covered in that plastic grid prism stuff from ceiling drop lights. I just need to cut him a set that fits. So I've spent the past few hours perfecting the eyes. It seemed easy enough. It was, I just needed to make a little right angle piece out of this fluorescent light lens material, and then that just sets in there with one of these yellow truck lights that goes behind it. And okay, sure. It took me 5 tries to get the angles all right to match with the top of the head and the nose and everything else. This started out as an 8-inch square piece of material, you know, which is what, I don't know, 20 centimeters square, somewhere around there. This is all I got left. I had enough at least. I use Weld-On 4 to glue the plastic together. The cement won't react with the foam, so I can glue the plastic while it's in place. I also glue the lights right next to the back of the lenses. The plastics are gluable, so why not? I set the eyes aside to fully cement themselves. And the last missing detail for the head are all of the rivets. Mechagodzilla is covered in large rivets, much like a steam locomotive. Thankfully, these are easy to super glue on, and the rivet pattern is not perfectly straight lines even on the movie suit. They look like they're glued on by hand, which is nice for me. It's been a little over an hour, but I've got all the rivets put on the face, and it's nice that I've got plenty for doing the rest of the body, so I'm not worried about running out of this size of rivet. What I am running out of is time. I've got the head made. I'm real happy with it. Got the eyes, I have the ears, the mouth is working. The lid needs to be glued on, but I don't have the time to make the neck. What I really wanted to do with this video was make the headpiece with an underskull that I could put on. And then I would have the head that I could wear. Is this even on screen? Yeah, you can kind of see it. Then I would have the head that I could wear for a Mechagodzilla costume. But the problem I have is that I've got a weekly schedule to keep for putting videos out. And I'm out of time for how much time I can spend on building this video. So the next gonna have to wait for the next video. And I'll just keep making pieces. Every so often, every month, I'm gonna come out with a new video that's for Mechagodzilla, that's gonna have some piece of him, and we're gonna continue building parts until I have a full suit that I can wear hopefully by next summer. Hopefully actually by spring, but next summer, well, somewhere in that area. So it's time to paint him. I remove the jaw and coat everything in a couple of layers of black Plastidip. The clear plastic on the eyes are painted with the transparent yellow spray paint. Mechagodzilla is basically just silver, so I bought some heavy body silver craft paint and thinned it so I can spray it with my touch-up gun. It takes a couple of coats, but I think it's much smoother and better looking than brush painting. Mix a window cleaner with some black Plaid Effects paint at a 50-50 ratio, and then use it in an airbrush to add shadows onto the head. The only other color is the tip of the rockets, which are red. I put the jaw back together, and I'll get the puppet mechanism working next time. The truck lights came with wires, so I make a circuit that attaches to my 12-volt drill battery, and the eyes can light up. Super glue the eyes in place, and finally glue on the top of the head. Most of the materials I use for this project I picked up locally. I put a list in the description. This took longer than I thought it would. I'm not gonna lie to you. In fact, I've got about 12 hours till this video goes live, so I gotta finish editing it. But I've got the head finished, and that feels really good. I'm really glad and I'm really happy with how well the eyes turned out. That was something I was worried about. Using the truck lights I think was a good idea. And I'm curious how long the battery's gonna last, but we'll figure that out. And I know it's gonna fit as a big, tall, goofy hat because I've already tried that. But actually fitting this to be a big, tall, goofy hat and then making the neck ring that'll go around it that'll help support it so I'm not totally supporting the weight on my head, that's for a next video. That's for December. In December, I'll be getting those parts put together as well as probably starting on the shoulders. I'll get as far as I can go in a few days for December because I'm going to continue making Mechagodzilla, putting out a new video, one a month, every month, until the whole suit is finished. And that is my goal. That is what I'm going to be doing because I want to stomp around at a con when they open back up wearing a full suit Mechagodzilla costume. And you know darn well I'm going to do it because this is how Odin makes. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be able to stop and rest in the closed position. Because I can put a string inside or a cable or something in order to make the mouth pull open, right? All I got to do is put a stick out the back here with a pulley up here and a string coming down that magically goes somewhere else. And I can make the mouth open. But what I needed was a way for it to close easy. And I got that now. That's going to be fine. I want to thank Adam Minchin, Black Label, and all of my Patreon supporters. My Patreon support is the #1 thing that makes this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.